from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Today on Ag Day, where's the market headed now that USDA sets the course for the rest of the growing season? An analysis.
We focus very much on the supply. How big is that supply going to be? Then we ignore really what's happening at the demand side.
We look at rural implications of opioid abuse. Machinery Pete tells us what tractor collectors are interested in right now. And Google and 4-H join forces for the future of farm kids.
Ag Day, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Betsy Gibbon in for Clinton Griffiths. A new week brings another fresh crop progress report. However, farmers and economists are still feeling the sting from last week's big USDA report. USDA pegging the U.S. corn crop at 169.5 bushels per acre, down from last year. However, USDA says it has the potential to be the third highest corn yield and production on record, despite problem areas throughout the Corn Belt. Some economists forecasting relief in the ag economy may not arrive soon enough, with lower prices keeping revenues very tight.
Put that all together, what that says is that margins are not going to change a lot from what they were last year. Those were very narrow. In some cases, we saw negative margins, farmers losing money on crops. That's going to continue for 2017. And the discouragement is, it really is up to another crop now, the 18 crop a year from now, before we can get some turnaround.
Hertz says one reason he's anticipating tight margins to continue is the amount farmers spent on this year's crop, on areas needing replant and higher chemicals for disease and weed pressure. USDA left harvested soybean acres unchanged at 88.7 million acres. If realized, that would be a record acreage, and the average yield was raised from last month to 49.5 bushels an acre. Much of the yield growth this year has been in the South. USDA highlights the states in blue where average yields climbed. Georgia sees a 14 bushel increase compared to last year, but it was deep in drought this time in 2016. The red throughout the Midwest indicates losses from the previous year. President Donald Trump is taking steps at declaring the opioid epidemic as a national emergency. It's an issue bleeding throughout the country, both in rural and urban communities. The opioid epidemic is widespread throughout our nation's cities and rural communities. That's why President Trump is taking steps at declaring a national emergency after a recommendation from the White House's Opioid Commission.
Nobody is safe from this epidemic that threatens young and old, rich and poor, urban and rural communities. Everybody is threatened.
U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions vocal about the popularity of opioid drug use.
According to the authoritative New England Journal of Medicine, we're seeing more availability, higher purity, and lower price. Those are three bad trends.
According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, opioids killed more than 33,000 people in 2015. Sessions saying the use is widespread throughout large and small communities, and Ohio is ground zero.
On average, one person in Columbus dies of a drug overdose every day. That is an amazing number, but it's not too different from Alabama and other places around the country.
The use is such a problem for rural communities. Former USDA Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack led the push to curb opioid use while he was in office.
The other compounding fact in rural areas is the lack of treatment. There are just not that many treatment facilities in rural areas. It's sometimes difficult for a small county hospital to have the kind of personnel.
Rural America can see injuries, sometimes from strenuous work on the farm, and pain meds can potentially lead up to an addiction.
So those who work on farms have a tendency to hurt themselves, pull backs, what have you, strained muscles, and we need to be very aware and very cautious of the impact of opiate medication and the addictive nature of opiate pain medicines.
A growing problem and a long way to go as those in office acknowledge and tackle the crisis.
And I'm confident that by working with our healthcare and law enforcement experts, we will fight this deadly epidemic and the United States will win.
According to the CDC, 91 Americans die every day from an opioid overdose. That includes prescription opioids and heroin. From harvest to hail, Mike Hoffman has you covered in this morning's crop comments. Mike?
Thanks, Betsy. USDA's report on Thursday showed Texas's state average corn yield climbing 5 bushels per acre this year to 132 bushels per acre. And this video may show you why. Todd Kimbrell is harvesting some impressive corn yields near Itasca, Texas. The Kimbrells tell us yields have been good, but now they're getting into the heavier ground and yields are better than expected. Look at those 220s and 230s showing up on the yield monitor. And USDA already thinks the corn yields in Kansas will fall 9 bushels from last year, and this hail won't help. Jake captured this video of a barrage of tennis ball sized hail pounding Waukene, Texas. That's just west of Hays. He says multiple vehicles were damaged with broken windows. And taking a look at the estimated rainfall last week, you can see some of the heavier amounts. We'll take a closer look at that coming up in just a few minutes and have your forecast for the week. We'll check it out in just a little while, but first here are some hometown temps.
Save time each day and receive the latest market prices directly to your cell phone with market updates. It makes it effortless to stay aware of shifting market prices. Just text Markets 8 to 31313 to get started.
Up next, we continue our coverage on crop conditions as the market still reacts to USDA's latest grain data. See how 4-H and Google are coming together to help the youth of America discover a career path. And in the country, we'll visit a special farm that's also pushing science and technology. Plus, Machinery Pete checks in.
Tractors from the early 1970s are red hot on the collector market. Stick around, we'll talk about it.
Are you a game changer? Know someone who is? Chevron is searching for those people that have made an impact on the industry. Share your nominee at chevrondello.com/gamechangers. Dello, let's go further.
USDA is paying a 169.5 BPA for corn in its latest report, despite declining conditions in some I states. If crop conditions continue to fall, what could that mean for the markets? Tyne Morgan joins us now with more.
Here now with Dan Huber. Dan, let's look at these crop conditions. We continue to see USDA trim some of these crop conditions back. I mean, is it typical this time of year that crop conditions deteriorate? Are we seeing them fall further than the past?
Well, you know, you do tend to see them start to slide this time of year, and that really moves all the way into harvest. But, you know, we already started from a much lower base than we were a year ago. And I think the key element here, particularly in the last couple of weeks, is you saw some of the major states, Illinois, Indiana. Indiana, of course, is one of the worst rated states, but then Iowa deteriorating a little bit. So you've got the big I states that are starting to move backwards, and that is not a good thing. I mean, they have such a weighting on what the overall yield is going to be. It's got to be taking a little bigger tack on that yield estimate than maybe previously thought. So
I mean, Dan, it's pretty much the understanding that we're not going to see the record crop that we saw last year, but still, the crop looks pretty good.
You know, overall looks good, but again, I think we tend to focus, you know, particularly this time of year, we focus very much on the supply. How big is that supply going to be? Then we ignore really what's happening in the demand side. Yes, we're going to back off a little bit on some of the demand, particularly on the export. That's what's projected for next year. But any slip on the yield and you start reducing carryout, and the old line of reasoning is if carryouts are moving lower, prices tend to move steady to higher. And it just is a question mark now on how much do we take that down. And corn, 2 billion is kind of a psychological mark. Once you start to slip below 2 billion ending stocks, then I think people really sit up and pay attention and say, all right, you know, we know corn seems to have value between 350 and 4. If we start erasing from that, are you going to get some buyers to panic?
So what yield do we need to come in on this corn market to really move this market and really change the game with demand and ending stocks as well?
You know, the challenging aspect right now, I believe, is that it's not going to be dramatic moving forward. You know, we've got the heat kind of behind us. Even though there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of problems out there, the heat doesn't really flare up that excitement, the emotion in the markets. So I think it's going to be more of a gradual process. I mean, this August report tomorrow should take a sizable yield reduction, of course, from the July report, but then I think you'll tend to see it even reduce each month thereafter. So you know, ultimately, yes, I think we'll be below 2 billion on carryout, and I think that's going to put a lot of people on notice that supplies are just not that burdensome anymore.
All right, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Stay with us. We have much more AgDay when we come back.
For a free trial of Dan's newsletter, visit thehuberreport.com or call toll-free at 888-926-0985.
Welcome back to Ag Day with meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, what does the weather look like as we kick off this week?
Well, it looks like some of the areas that got wet last week are going to be probably wet this week, as you'll see in my forecast coming up. And taking a look at the last week's worth of rain from a week ago Saturday to this past Friday, you can see some of the areas that had been getting a lot of rain, like Iowa over into Indiana and Ohio, not so much this time around, although you did see that one pocket there, western Illinois, although that area could use it. That's a small pocket that's been dry. But look at these wet areas, especially in the south central portions of the country. Parts of southern Missouri, southeast Kansas, northeastern Oklahoma. 6 to 8 inches of rain in spots. Same idea in a few spots in the southern Mississippi Valley. Widespread decent rains though, and that extends back through Houston and towards San Angelo as well. Not quite to San Angelo, but into the central portions of Texas. So some pretty massive amounts of rain there. Unfortunately, the drought areas, while you did see some rain over the past week, not enough to really get rid of that drought or even really start to diminish it much. Let's go back a month. You can see we had no exceptional droughts at that point, but we've been picking up on that over the past 4 weeks. You'll also notice we start to see areas of drought, southern plains, and then it starts to go away. So we're really not seeing any widespread areas of drought except in the Dakotas, eastern Montana. There's a few pockets there into portions of Iowa, northeastern Nebraska as well. Here's the jet stream, and we've seen this huge ridge out west for several weeks now. That is breaking down. The trough is still there to start this week as we look at the Northeast and the Great Lakes. Then that ridge kind of builds eastward. A piece of a ridge kind of coming into the Great Lakes will try to warm things up. Trough digging into the northwest for a change, although it's kind of zonal out there. But watch what happens as we head into this weekend and early parts of next week. We will see a trough actually digging into the west coast. That's the first time in a while. We'll probably see a little bit of rain this weekend and next week along the west coast, but you can see the ridge will hold in the middle of the country. So temperatures this week, I'm going below normal parts of the southeast and the northwest, above normal Texas and the southwest, and mainly central and eastern Canada, near normal in most of the Corn Belt. Above normal precipitation from western Minnesota, eastern Dakotas, all the way into the southeast, otherwise below normal northeast, Texas, and much of the west. 30-day outlook for precipitation, below normal in the middle of the country, above normal out west. And for precipitation, a large area of above normal, southern plains, southeast, and much of Canada expected to be below. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. First of all, for Greeley, Colorado, partly to mostly sunny, maybe a spotty thunderstorm, high of 85 degrees. Shreveport, Louisiana, variably cloudy, a thunderstorm or two, high of 92. And Augusta, Maine, mostly sunny and comfortable, the afternoon high around 81.
Thanks, Mike. A youth organization with long roots to rural America and a business that would like to extend its reach into farm country are joining forces on a big project to push technology to a new level. 4-H and Google announced a new program to bring computer education and problem-solving skills to 4-H members across the country. The initiative was announced Friday at the Illinois State Fair. The effort intends to bring new computers, curriculum, and training to chapters in 22 states. Google says it is committed to bringing technology literacy to parts of the country that might not be as connected.
Google and 4-H have a lot in common. 4-H has built a legacy of empowering youth to improve their communities in countless ways. We at Google are also invested in students. We empower students by providing access to information that can educate and change lives.
The hope is to get young people more interested in computer science from an early age, which might lead towards a career in that field. According to their news release, within 3 years, there'll be more than 1 million computer science-related jobs and only 400,000 qualified job candidates. Later on Ag Day, we'll stick with the theme of science and technology as we visit a 4-H camp in Tennessee, where it's focused on STEM education. But first, we check in with Machinery Pete on some of the hottest trends right now for tractor collectors.
Machinery Pete is brought to you by John Deere. Where can you find the most comprehensive inventory of John Deere certified pre-owned tractors, combines, and sprayers? MachineFinder.com. Sometimes the best new addition to your fleet isn't new.
In today's Machine Repeat report, we find out why tractor models from the early 1970s are so hot right now for collectors.
Well, folks, any debate about where the heat is in the tractor collector market, well, that's been dispelled here the past couple weeks. The sweet spot are muscle tractors from the early 1970s. Now, last Tuesday on a collector auction in northeast Iowa, this 1973 John Deere 7520 four-wheel drive sold for $41,500, new record price. The previous high was $38,000 4 years ago on a sale in Ohio. Now, that same sale last Tuesday in Iowa, another record price on this 1972 John Deere 7020 four-wheel drive, and it had 3,484 hours on it, went for $28,500. Previous high was $24,000 on an auction in Iowa 3 years ago. Now, a week ago Saturday, across the state in northwest Iowa, on a red tractor collector sale, this 1970 International 1456 Wheatland went for $33,000. And that's the second highest auction price I've ever seen on an International 1456. And folks, color just does not matter here. Now, here's a picture of an Alice Chalmers 1972 220 two-wheel drive. It sold on a farm auction southeast Minnesota July 1st and went for $40,000. Again, record high price on a two-wheel drive 220. So again, the sweet spot for the collector money with tractors these days, the early 1970s.
Thanks, Pete. Next, learning about science in the great outdoors.
I'm Charles Denny. Summer means camp for many Tennessee 4-H'ers, but here at Lone Oaks in West Tennessee, it's also a chance to learn science and agriculture. STEM camping next on AgDay.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. Tractors, hay tools, utility vehicles, mowers, and more. Visit Kubota.com today.
Summer camps are meant to be an escape for children, but learning can happen there too. That's the idea at Tennessee's newest youth education and 4-H center, Lone Oaks Farm. At the camp, they focus on 4 core curricula: science, technology, engineering, and math. In this report provided by the UT Institute of Ag, Charles Denny shows us how STEM becomes a day of camping activities.
A summer morning is a great time to catch some fish, and here the bass are shockingly cooperative. You're aboard UT Extension's shock boat, sending a harmless electric current into the water, stunning the fish momentarily, so they can then be scooped up by net or grabbed by the mouth.
The teeth hurt. They will poke you and they will make you bleed.
Actually, there was no blood loss this day, but this camp has teeth. It's a 4-H STEM experience for kids at Lone Oaks Farm in Hardeman County, which includes lakes, forest, and fields. Ron Blair is director of STEM education.
We're doing a big math lesson right now on the shock boat where we actually take unbiased samples and assimilate that into data, and then those young people can make recommendations based on it. What we're trying to do here at Lone Oaks is connect people back to agriculture, where their food comes from, and that science is pretty cool.
Campers learn from Tennessee State University's Mobile Biofuel Lab, how farmers grow our fuel. Kyler Pennick has aspirations of being an engineer, and he's already off to a good start. 4-H leaders want kids to have fun while they're here at Lone Oaks, but on a more serious note, they are preparing them for the future. The STEM-related jobs of tomorrow should pay well. The day continued with kayaking on the Hatchie River. The STEM curriculum is a partnership with the Hardeman County Schools. This camp was for middle schoolers, an impressionable age where educators encourage discovery.
This opportunity to use a facility like this provides like a super fast on-ramp to get kids engaged in hands-on activities that extend the classroom from the textbook out to what real careers are.
These middle school children that we're running through these camps will be our next generation of going into working in these STEM activities and STEM careers, and we hope to give them a good base for that.
Lone Oaks is a place to release fish and your inhibitions, where science, agriculture, and nature blend for an educational experience. This is Charles Denny reporting.
Well, that's all the time we have this morning. We're glad you tuned in. For Mike Hoffman and Tyne Morgan, I'm Betsy Gibbon. Have a great day.
AgDay is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest-lasting pickups.